So maybe you have seen it by now, maybe you have not seen it by now, but the other day I just posted a video of my rankings for the 2024 NFL wide receiver draft class, and although there were points where I was right and points where I was wrong, this video is meant to kind of break down and react what happened over the weekend at the NFL Combine. I wanted to record this video a little bit sooner, but with work and me not really feeling so good, I was feeling a bit under the weather this weekend. I even got my tea here. You know, I'm trying to drink tea, feel better, more life. Got my Krusty Krab mug here, you know. The Krusty Krab. But this video is meant to go over where I was wrong. Although I was right at some points, I will give myself that little pat on the back for that. I was not entirely wrong about the 2024 wide receiver draft class, but I was wrong about a few things. I obviously didn't even cover Xavier Worthy in my last video. And maybe you live under a rock, maybe you don't keep up with the Combine, but Xavier Worthy absolutely showed out, and it wasn't just a 40-yard dash time that was so impressive. So we're going to take a look at that and go over that. Normally, I got my Yankee cap, Yankee gear, but I am a Celtics fan, and I am riding high on the victory the other night. So let me rock out with my Celtics gear, please, and let's roll the intro. So let's start by looking at NFL.com's Combine reporting. We have here highlighted the next-gen stats, starting with Xavier Worthy, who I completely forgot to mention in the last video. Had the fastest 40 time at 4.21 and had a 1.49 10-yard split, which was, if not the fastest, one of the fastest times at the Combine. And not to mention, to top that all off, proved he was a supreme athlete with a 41-inch vertical. I'm not going to be diving in too much on Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr., being that they didn't really perform at the Combine, didn't really do any drills. It's all just, these numbers here are just projections. So we're going to kind of ignore them, float over them, and just talk about the guys that actually did perform in the Combine. So let's start with Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin, who I spoke highly of in my last video, he was pretty underwhelming at the Combine in terms of showing off his speed, but still grades out well according to NFL's next-gen stats. He's 6th amongst wide receivers in total score, and he finds himself between Brian Thomas Jr. and Adonai Mitchell, who were two guys that I had ranked lower than him. Not by a lot, but ranked lower than him for sure, so I was wrong about that. Troy Franklin had a 4.41 40 time and a 1.61 10-yard split. These weren't necessarily bad, but if you're going to hold it up to Xavier Worthy standards, it was bad. Moving on, let's talk about right above him, Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. most likely raised his draft stock as he was overall 3rd in terms of their cumulative athletic score, meaning all the drills considered. His 4.33 40 time, which is impressive at 6'3" and almost 210 pounds, and his 1.5 10-yard split was the 3rd fastest among wide receivers. Moving on to the next player, Adonai Mitchell, at an inch shorter 6'2" and a few pounds lighter than Brian Thomas, he was slower by a hair with a 4.34 40 time and had a 1.52 10-yard split, but was able to jump 1 inch higher in the vertical than Brian Thomas Jr. So where I was wrong in my last video is that these two guys, Brian Thomas Jr. and Adonai Mitchell, are much closer than I expected, but Thomas Jr. is still the better wide receiver between these two. Now let's circle back to the elite scorer, Rome Odunze. Despite not being known for his game-breaking speed, ran a 4.45 40, which surprised me. It was a lot faster than I initially expected him to run, and probably the most well-rounded combine out of all of them, as he has the top score of the wide receivers. And going back to when I said his comps were Fitzgerald or DeAndre Hopkins, he showed a lot better bursts of speed than either one of those guys, which is very impressive. The only thing that Hopkins or even Larry Fitzgerald beat Rome Odunze in is the bench press, which is a drill that Rome Odunze did not participate in, and that was the only drill Rome Odunze did not participate in. So he grades out very high. He definitely benefited from this combine, maybe even pushed himself as a top 2 receiver in this draft behind Marvin Harrison, but obviously Malik Nabers still exists, so take that with a grain of salt. Next we have, scrolling down, we have Ladd McConkey, who I spoke highly of in my last video, not going to lie. and somewhat proved what I said to be true, as he isn't the most athletic guy, but also had a well-rounded combine, and even included 13 reps in the bench press, which was pretty impressive. It shows that he's not afraid to hit the weight room and is an absolute workhorse and will continue to get better and better as he gets through the league, showing that he's willing to block. Even his 4.39 40 was not amazing, but his 1.52 10-yard split was very impressive. And Ladd McConkey ranked 12th in terms of athleticism amongst these wide receivers in his class. Finally, another player that I really didn't speak much of at all, if any, is Xavier Legette. And even though he was at over 220 pounds, ran a 4.39 40, which is very impressive, and had a 1.54 10-yard split. So clearly, Legette was not on my radar in the last video. That's my bad. I'm willing to own up to that. And hopefully we could keep more of a spectacle on him, even though NFL Next Gen stats say that he's probably going to develop into a starter later on. He has the tools and has the potential to be a very good wide receiver in this league. So again, this is just my reaction of what the combine drills and results are. No, this doesn't mean that because somebody jumped an inch higher like Adonai Mitchell, he's going to be a better wide receiver in the NFL. That's just ridiculous. We're only rating off of what we have in front of us right now, so that's what I'm going ahead and I'm doing. I'm not going to say that one player is better than the other because of these numbers, but we do need to take them into consideration when trying to find our outlier rookie wide receiver that we all want to draft on our fantasy teams this year. Again, sorry for the nasally voice. Been under the weather the last few days, but despite that, if you could drop a like on this video, I would really appreciate that. If you're new here and you like fantasy football content, feel free to subscribe. Doesn't cost a thing. And that's all I got for you guys today. I'm signing out. Peace.